There we go. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today, and apologies for the slight delay. Connect with the campaign for grade level reading on social media. On YouTube, subscribe to our channel at Grade Level Reading. On LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, follow us at Campaign for GLR. And on X, follow us at Reading by Third. Please use the hashtag Learning Tuesdays and tag us to tweet anything you learned from today's webinar, and we'll be sure to retweet. We encourage you to share your questions, reflections, and observations on social media. My name is Sierra Sanchez, and I'll be behind the scenes helping to produce this webinar. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge our enterprise and programmatic funders, as well as our individual donors. Your support not only allows us to hold these vital conversations, but also helps us create meaningful opportunities to share insights, foster connections, and build the CGLR community. Thank you. As we get started, I have just a few housekeeping details to share with you. First, we would love for you to introduce yourself, so please use the chat box at the bottom of the screen to share your name, city, or state, and your organization. Be sure when responding to select everyone so that we all know who is here, and feel free to share your thoughts and insights throughout the duration of the webinar. All attendees are in listen-only mode, but we encourage your engagement by posting questions in the Q&A box. Our panelists will be typing out responses to those questions, and we'll be dedicating the last portion of the webinar to respond to those questions live. The webinar is being recorded and live streamed on Facebook. A link to the recording, as well as any slides, bios, and resources, will be sent in a follow-up email on Friday to all who registered. And last thing, we will be posting a brief on-screen evaluation during Q&A and highly encourage you to respond. This helps us with our commitment to continuous improvement. And before we get started, I just wanted to take a moment to highlight some of our upcoming webinars. Next week, as we continue our Technology Enhanced Teaching and Learning webinar series, we hope that you'll join us for a discussion in partnership with Digital Promise, where we will dig into AI and technology's role in revolutionizing teaching and learning, and the various hesitancies and welcoming attitudes that have been uncovered. The following week, on the 22nd, we'll have our final session in the series, which will explore several high-dosage tutoring innovations and how they are helping to close achievement gaps by ensuring the children most affected by learning loss have access to proven strategies that can accelerate equitable learning recovery. But don't feel too sad about this series ending, because fortunately, we have GLR Week 2025 coming up right behind it. GLR Week will feature double headers each day that will lift up and highlight several targeted big bet interventions and approaches that are helping to close the gaps and drive early school success for children in economically challenged families. On these two slides, you can see numerous opportunities for engaging conversations that we'll be hosting, starting off with a virtual gratitude session for aquariums and zoos at 12:30, and a continuation of the conversation on technology and education with a session co-sponsored by New America at 3 p.m. You can see that right here. But like I said, there are many upcoming webinars for GLR Week, so we hope that you will register to join us. And now, last thing I'll say, I'm excited to introduce today's session, Designing for Connection, How Technology Can Power Learning in Homes and Communities. To start us off, I'll introduce our moderator for today's conversation, Gabe Hakim. Gabe is co-founder and managing partner at Promise Venture Studio. Promise drives equity in early childhood by supporting a national network of 600 plus social ventures touching every corner of the field, from birth equity to childcare access and quality to perinatal health and mental health. Promises programs, including the Promising Ventures Fellowship and Show and Tell, have accelerated the impact of hundreds of proximate-led organizations and has connected them to tens of millions in funding. Promise is also the backbone organization for the National Early Childhood Leaders of Color Collaborative that supports 400 plus field leaders in pursuit of greater sustainability, social capital, and collective power. Before Promise, Gabe has led numerous equity and justice-driven organizations. He is also a former preschool teacher and a father of two effervescent young girls. And with that, I will pass it over to Gabe to get us started.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thanks to the CGLR team and to everybody who's joined us today, including our panelists. I'm so excited for this discussion. Honored to moderate the conversation as a part of the Campaign for Grade Level Readings Technology Enhanced Teaching and Learning Institute. As was mentioned, a month-long GLR Learning Tuesdays series exploring how technology can advance equity, accelerate academic recovery, and safeguard child well-being. Let's dive right in because we've got some great stuff for everyone here today. And I'm going to start, if you can click to the next slide, with unfortunately a blunt assessment. Right now, early childhood is under attack, and each day is seemingly bringing a new headline of hurtful and callous actions impacting systems, structures, and supports that provide real lifelines to children and families. Whether it's threats to cut Head Start and public school funding, legislation that slashes Medicaid and SNAP, or spreading terror of separation among immigrant families, or the impacts of inflation and tariffs that further squeeze folks financially, we know as a result that children, families, and caregivers are on the brink. The latest results from the Stanford Center on Early Childhood's Rapid Survey tell us that 40% of families are experiencing material hardship right now, struggling to pay for food, housing, childcare, and utilities. Moreover, 75% of caregivers of young children can't make ends meet. And stress for parents and caregivers leads to distress for young children at their most vulnerable and formative moments of life. In fact, we've obtained some very recent fMRI imaging of exactly what has been going on and occurring at a molecular level in each of our brains that I'd like to share with you right now. Does anyone else feel like this is what's been going on inside of their head? I know it's been mine. And, to rebuild or build anew the abundant and just world that children, families, and caregivers deserve, we need anxiety and fear and anger to let go of the controls. We are the early childhood people. We know this. We know that executive functions, like the ability to make good decisions or to make plans, they fail when we're under amygdala hijack. And we know that prolonged activation of our stress response system is toxic. It's not good for us. It's not good for other leaders in the field. And like young children, it's not good for the long-term development of our field. So if I can invite you, I can't see you, but I feel like I can see you. And so I'm going to invite you to join me in just let's take one collective, deep, calming breath together on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. And exhale. Okay. We're going to move forward because it's listening to that voice inside calling us to prioritize joy amidst anxiety and hope amidst despair, opportunity amidst great challenge. And early childhood social innovators, grounded in their vision and values, see opportunity in moments of tectonic shift. As was mentioned at Promise, I have the privilege of working with thousands of innovative leaders in the early childhood field across the country who bring unique perspectives, products, programs, services, and interventions, all towards a similar goal, a developmentally rich environment that allows every child to fulfill their innate promise. And on the front lines, right now, we have seen no decline in hope and aspiration to meet the moment from proximate social innovators. Innovators like those that I have the privilege to talk to and share with you today. Which leads me to today's discussion and the topic, technology. So let me start with the most impressive and terrifying combination of environmentally adaptive, self-learning hardware and software that has ever been developed. The human 3-year-old. This is my youngest daughter, Salma, who, as you might guess, is a force to be reckoned with. She is a child that I affectionately refer to as a goofball stacked on top of a wrecking ball. And for those of you with littles in your life know, as those of you with littles in your life know, the challenge of just getting Salma's socks on as we head out the door each morning is akin to simultaneous tasks of charming a snake and fighting a bull. And when it's done, we have to do sunscreen. So for anyone overly anxious that technology will replace us, or for those overly zealous that it will save us in early childhood, I will tell you from my heart, it ain't happening. And while maybe not with socks, sunscreen, or snuggles, there are so many ways that it can help us. And that's what we'll unpack today. Today's conversation is about designing for connection, how we can use technology not as a substitute for human relationships, but as a bridge between them. You'll hear from program leaders and founders who are building tools rooted in equity, care, and real-life challenges. And we'll learn how technology can support the village that surrounds every child, from families to educators and community partners. So let's do it. It is my privilege to share with you the incredible group of panelists that we have assembled for you. We're going to do it in two panels. First, we have Mel Faxon, the COO and co-founder of Mirza, Sam Gardner, the CEO and co-founder of Happypillar, Temis Laguna, the senior manager and of education media for La Fuerza de Familias Latinas from Literacy Partners. And then in our second panel, we'll talk to Hee Lim, the founder and CEO of Talking Points, Alejandro Gibes de Gac, the CEO and founder of Springboard Collaborative and Paloma, Rex Duval, the co-founder and CEO of Nookly, and Omo Moses, the founder and CEO of Math Talk Public Benefit Corporation. One final housekeeping note, and then we're going to get right in it. At Promise, we believe that an ecosystem early childhood should reflect the environment of reciprocity and mutuality that we aspire to create for young children, families, and communities. So for today's discussion, we all have a job. You'll get to hear from some very inspiring leaders about their very impactful organizations. But they are not here just to share wisdom and insights with you. Each of you in our audience today has a well of valuable resources, your own wisdom, resources, and potential connections that can strengthen the impact of these organizations. Only be a success if we connect those dots. So I've asked each of our panelists to share what they need your help with. And I'm going to ask each of you right now to take out a notebook or open up a Google Doc and be a participant so that after today's session, you can follow up with unique ways that you can support. It might be a warm introduction to a community partner or a funder, a piece of direct feedback, or an idea for collaboration. All of them can go a long way to realizing our shared aspirations for children, caregivers, families, and communities. So get that pad of paper, that pen, and open up that Google Doc, and let's dive in. All right, let's go to our first panel. We often say that families are children's first teachers, but to do that well, they need the time, space, resources, and a village of support. And by the way, members of the village need time, space, and resources too. Like all ecosystems, they depend on interdependence. And in our first panel, we'll explore how technology can help families create rich learning environments at home and in wherever else a young child spends their time. This panel will highlight tools that create conditions for learning to thrive in their home by reducing stress, by building confidence, and by centering parent well-being. These are all tools that meet families where they are and support them as whole people, not just as learning coaches, but as partners, nurturers, and leaders of their child's growth. So I'm excited to welcome Mel Faxon, again from Mirza, Sam Gardner from Happypillar, and Temis Laguna from Literacy Partners. Hello, friends. Thanks again for joining us today. We're going to start, and I'd love for each of you to just briefly introduce the program and introduce the organization and the program with our audience. What inspired you to create this tool or this resource, and what need are you trying to meet for families? And Mel, I'll ask you to kick it off with Mirza.
Awesome. I'm Mel Faxon. I'm one of the co-founders of Mirza. The easiest way to think about us is like TurboTax for the safety net. So we've created a platform that helps folks discover benefit programs that they might qualify for, and then we generate applications on their behalf. We started with childcare subsidies because, we have $21 billion of federal funding allocated towards programs like Head Start, Early Head Start, childcare assistance programs, but only 10% of eligible families receive those subsidies every year. And so actually, as of this week, we are now nationwide and we screen for federal, state, county, and city level programs across the country and connect parents to those resources. So, highlight for them everything that might work for their family depending on their children. We can also send them reminders around, your 3-year-old just turned 4, it's time to apply for preschool. How can we help remove that mental load from them, connect them to resources that exist? And I think, especially in the context of learning at home, a lot of folks don't realize you can pay a family, friend, or neighbor to take care of your kids with subsidy programs like this. So we can also help highlight for families what that might look like too.
Thanks, Mel. That is fantastic overview. One of the things that I remember being out here in the Bay Area where Michelle, a member of the CGLR team, had done some work from the past, is this point you mentioned around the stress and all-consuming effort for parents to to get access and get enrolled in the resources that are potentially available for them. And I know, and I'm sure members of our audience have seen that sometimes like just getting access to these resources that will lead to childcare for your kid, you can be on a waiting list or be working through a process for years at a time. So I think as we go deeper, I'm so excited to hear about sort of the work and the technology that Mirza is deploying to make that so much more user-friendly and to make those resources more accessible. So thanks for being here. Next, I'm going to go to Sam. Sam, can you tell us a little bit about your work at Happypillar?
Yeah, totally. So, hi, I'm Sam Gardner. I'm the CEO of Happypillar. I remember one night when it was time to transition my 4-year-old Winston from bath to bed, he started screaming at me. He said he hated me. He wanted a new family. That night, he sobbed himself to sleep, and I sobbed right outside his door. That night, I heard a voice coming out of a kid so small it should not come out of a kid that small, and it's coming out of far too many kids in our country and in our world today. And I'm a mom who has access to everything, time, money, a supportive partner, and I still had trouble getting access to therapy for Winston. That shouldn't be normal for me, and it shouldn't be normal for anyone. So that's why Happy Pillar exists. We use technology to break down barriers in bringing evidence-based mental health strategies to families. We use speech recognition and AI to give real-time personalized feedback to parents. At our core, we are a combination of therapist expertise and artificial intelligence. And that combination really allows us to reach millions of kids and families.
That's awesome. Thanks, Sam. I'm so glad, and we'll dive in more in a minute. But I think that I mentioned this concept earlier about how the interconnectivity and the codependence and interdependence in ecosystems, and families are such a great example of that interdependence and the well-being of children and their caregivers and their parents. We're all tied together. So those great moments are shared, but also those moments when one person needs help, it also often means that multiple people need help. So I'm really excited to hear and keep sharing about the work at Happy Pillar. All right, Temis, can you share a little bit about the incredible work that you and your team are doing at Literacy Partners?
Of course, thank you so much. I am Temis Laguna, a senior mentor of educational media in Literacy Partners. And in Literacy Partners, we advance literacy 2 generations at a time. We understand that parents are the best teachers for their child. So by supporting adults, parents, and caregivers, we nurture literacy skills that they and their children in their lives need, right? So, and also we do this through educational media, telenovelas, soap operas, series, and also community workshops and intensive literacy classes. We support families bringing more reading, learning, and science into their homes, and we create these moments of connection rooted in language, culture, and the everyday life. But we believe that when we build adult capacities, we really are impacting children outcomes. So I think that that is the most important thing. We also do it in an accessible way. We do it virtually and in person, but we use a telenovela and also digital resources that are available in our website, totally free for the parents so that they can engage in their language, culture, and celebrating these moments with their child, no matter the situation that they are living with. And also we create the social capital, right? A lot of the parents that we serve are also like English learners or they are immigrants. So also we provide this sense of community through the technology that they're already using, like WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram. So yeah, it's really, really accessible for them.
Thanks, Temis. I think that one of the things that I love across all of these examples, and I know that the focus of GLR is, around early learning, but one of the things that strikes me as a strength of technology as a tool is to really meet families where they are and, solve for like the most common, but frankly, the most frustrating pain points. And so each of the examples that Mel and Sam and Temis, you all just shared, I think are such good examples of the diverse ways that technology can help bridge that gap between where families are and what maybe well-intentioned service or help is trying to get to them, but the process to get there is usually pretty laborious. I have a follow-up question for each of you that I'd love to ask, and a reminder to the folks in the audience too that you can use the Q&A function for the whole group or an individual as you go. But I want to circle back to you first, Mel. So, I mentioned this in the opening. The rapid survey from Stanford recently revealed that 40% of all parents are dealing with at least one material hardship. And the cost of childcare is among the largest challenges, where in nearly every state right now, it's exceeding a young family's cost of rent or housing. And as a result, 40% of parents are in debt from the cost of childcare, and 1 in 4 parents drop out of the paid workforce due to struggles that have to do with childcare access and cost. So I heard you talk about Mirza starting with childcare, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you all are using your access and reduce the burden of cost, all in a user-friendly, dignified way, especially for families eligible for subsidized supports.
Yeah, it's I think the Venn diagram of folks who qualify for SNAP, for Medicaid, for childcare subsidies is really just a circle. And so especially in this time when we're looking at pretty massive cuts to the social safety net and the impact that will have on families, this is a really big conversation. A lot of the work that we do is really taking that discovery process off of a parent's plate. So in California, for example, where I live, there are over 20 different childcare programs, and you'd have to know about every single one. Every county has different requirements or a slightly different process for similar programs. So by answering a 3-minute survey in your own native language from the comfort of your home, like on your phone, we can just put everything that works for your family right in front of you. So we take that guesswork out, we take out that research element, and really are just connecting folks to resources that make sense for their family in a much faster way. And they can also apply right through our product by filling out one profile with us. We then map everything out for them onto the right forms. And so, we've seen what takes a month-long process just take about 35 minutes, which has been pretty amazing. I think for families too, you know, if you make one more dollar an hour, you might lose access to resources like childcare subsidy. And so that trade-off for families, for parents who are working, multiple jobs, who have no time to be at home is significant. And so, like you mentioned, 40% of parents being in debt over the cost of childcare, it's because people are taking out loans to pay for summer camp when their childcare falls through or when they don't have public school access during the year. Um, on average in the US, if you qualify for childcare subsidies, it's about $10,000 per child per year that goes towards offsetting those costs. So that's significant. That's moving the needle for families. And it's something that we're really, really focused on. 42% of our users in New York were able to either increase hours or have a partner return to work full time. And that's a household income increase of 170%. So that, it's childcare is such an unlock. And I think, especially in the context of this and all the work that we're doing, being able to choose the care that works for your family is also so important. So if that's connecting you to a local child care provider or an in-home care provider, if that's grandma taking care of kids while you're working the night shift, you shouldn't have to make those decisions between childcare, family, and career. And so by connecting families to the financial resources they need to be able to really have that healthy environment for their family, know their kids are taken care of and are learning and engaging in the right way, has always been our focus.
Yeah, that's great. Well, two things stand out to what really stand out for me, what you just said is one, the number of times you just said time in describing, what it takes for a family, regardless of their circumstances, but especially if they are eligible for some kind of support in the neighborhood or community that they're in. And as those of us with young children or have supported young children know, I mean, that's just like the most precious resource. And the number of the almost like the rage you feel when your time is being poorly used or disrespected, like uh, um, there is a dignity that comes to respecting people's time in this period and season of life. And I just love the way that, the work that you're doing at Mirza meets families where they are. That's a super precious resource and says we can pull all of these things together, and it's not tenable for a family to wait a month or 2 months or 3 months or 5 months for an answer to where can I take my child when I have to go to work every day. And so it's just so cool that you're finding ways to unlock that in a more dignified and a simpler way, an accessible way for families. So, so cool. Sam, I have a follow-up question for you. I'm a big fan of Happypillar's work. One of the things I love, your website features a quote from Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, which says, "The parent-child connection is the most powerful mental health intervention known to mankind." Amen to that. I added the amen to that. That's not part of the quote. I'd love to hear your take on that. What does that idea mean to you, and how does it reflect in your mission and approach at Happypillar?
So a lot of you might not be familiar at first glance with the name Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, but you probably have heard about "The Body Keeps the Score." It's his most famous, well, at least to a layman like me, his most famous text, which I definitely recommend you all pick up. But we love that quote about parents being the mental health intervention for their kids because it captures something really core to our mission at Happypillar. So much of the conversation around children's mental health focuses on interventions for the child. Even I, when I felt my child needed a mental health intervention, assumed I'd be sending him to get therapy without me in the room, assumed it all had to do with him. But the truth is, the most powerful system is already right there. It's the relationship with the child's caregiver, with their family. And like we heard here today already, parents are their kids' first teachers, not just for walking or talking or reading, but also for how to handle big feelings, navigate stress, and build resilience. Also to put on sunscreen, put on shoes. So yeah, the connection with your parents is really something that sets a foundation for emotional health long before a therapist or a classroom even enters the picture. So that quote really isn't just like a nice idea. It's the strategy of Happypillar. So everything we build is designed to nurture that connection. And yeah, we're not trying to replace therapy or pathologize normal kid stuff. We are asking, what if we strengthened this bond that's already doing the heavy lifting?
That's great. Sam, can you say a little bit more, like how does that manifest in families' interaction with Happypillar?
Sure. So Happypillar is an app you use for 5 minutes a day with a child between the ages of 2 and 7. And it coaches parents on a type of interactive play called child-directed interaction. It's a way of playing with your child that is clinically proven to boost social emotional skills, to increase compliance, to help with depression, anxiety, abstinence, a whole host of things. So this child-directed interaction is not super easy for parents to implement. And there are some verbal techniques a parent needs to be implementing to make sure that the child-directed play is working effectively. So what Happypillar does is during the 5-minute sessions that we coach parents on having, we listen to that interaction and then use artificial intelligence and speech recognition to give real-time feedback on how closely the parent is utilizing, or how effectively the parent is utilizing these clinically backed skills. And then based on how things are going, progress, the goal the parents and family has, the age of the child, et cetera, different interactive learning modules and videos are recommended so that they get really an individualized experience.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam. Temis, I wanted to follow up with you because I know your work focuses on building confidence in caregivers through language and storytelling, which at its core is the most basic and distinctive thing for us as humans, our ability to communicate, and not just to communicate facts, but to share stories and history and culture with one another. What are families teaching you about the conditions they need to engage in learning together, especially at young ages?
Thank you so much. I'm just getting so excited about listening to all of us. But yeah, like family teaches that every day that meaningful engagement that we want to have, it starts with being seen, heard, and celebrated. Like we want to tell them that we see them. We know that parents and caregivers are carrying a big cognitive load. We all are sharing the same, like as you mentioned at the beginning, and they are juggling so much already that in order to learn, they don't need to, we don't need to add more, but also what we need to do is remove the barriers. So I think that it all begins by honoring what already exists in their homes, their stories, their language, and their culture. And we celebrate, we say like, okay, we see you, you are the best thing that can happen to your child, and you have everything that you need already. And sometimes when we start there is not just building educational programs, right? It's building trust, confidence, and long-term impact, because we don't create content, I think, from imagination. That is for us. We create content and we create all our programs from reality. We don't create for parents, we create with them, right? So I think that is the core, because we listen first, and because while they're maybe part of one big community, we know that, as Sam said, every family is unique and they have what they need, right? So many of the parents we serve are navigating complex realities of parenting, while adjusting not just to a new country, but also a new language, more technology, and sometimes life without literacy. And that is really, really hard also if you are also a parent. So that's a lot. And I think that they are doing all of these while staying emotionally present for their child, but also trying to build connections. So we don't ask them to do more. We begin by celebrating whatever, all they are already, right? So I think that when we design tools like our telenovelas, our read alouds, or digital resources, we are not built in isolation, because we conduct focus groups, ask questions, and spend time understanding how families are already supporting early literacy and STEM and social emotional learning everyday life. And maybe they don't know the language, but they are already doing all this. And when they do connect from I think that we don't connect from a place of scarcity. We connect from a place of wisdom and power that they are already bringing. So I think that families don't just always tell us, right? They show us that they already using WhatsApp, Facebook, and other things that are for them. They already there. So for example, it's more easy for us to engage with them when it's easy click and sign up and trust, and when we clearly explain how their information is being used and speak in a respectful tone and make them feel safe. Then is when we follow up with more care and something powerful happens, because they feel seen and heard. And I think that there is where engagement begins and learning sticks, because it's no longer about watching a video or joining a virtual workshop. It's about recognizing that what they are already doing at home is building a strong brains, as we are saying, like a rich language, reading skills, and even science. So we see parents saying wait, I am already doing that, it's already happening. And you're yes, you are doing it, we're celebrating with you. And then when it clicks, it sparks a kind of pride, right, that leads to more action, and families begin to engage with more intention, and then they invite other people to join. So I think that that is really, really important for us, because also when families see themselves reflected in their language, stories, and the humor, and also the stress, right? They don't have to explain us all they are going through. They open up, and they is when our community grows and they feel proud of who they are, and they already know that they are never the problem, because they always been part of the solution. So I think that that is when we want to also we like to meet families where they are. Like you mentioned, we met parents, and we truly support families. We need each other right now, and I think that right now our ask is to create this safety net for our parents, right? And how we are going to create this to partner with each other. If you need family engagement, come to us. And if we need other resources, we want to share that with our parents. I think that the moment is now that we have to connect more than ever. And also we are here for that. In Literacy Partners, we support also our partners to create this moment for their kids, so that they imagine, when they approach to us, they know that they are approaching maybe also Mirza and also Happypillar, right? And also that when they approach Mirza, they know that Mirza belongs to a safety net that is also like a partner with literacy and also mental health. So I think that right now we just want to also put that out and say like we are here to support each other, partners and parents, because when we support each other, we also can have better impact with our families learning at home and like knowing
Yeah.
their needs.
Well, Tammy's, I really, there's so much I appreciate about what you just named. Ending on a call for partnership and collaboration, I think is super important. Also, the fact that you named the various ways that you meet families where they are. I think we've heard this in each of the examples so far. But two, I started, and I often am hesitant to start with sort of facts and figures around where there is deficit or disinvestment or where families feel like they are falling short. And while we should face the reality that materially families may not have the money to pay for childcare or housing, or that they're struggling with access to services that should be accessible to them, I think you bring up a really good point, which is like, let's not fall into a false binary that there's a deficit within any of the families or the caregivers, because what you lifted up, which I think holds so true, is that the everything that a caregiver needs to create a healthy and productive reciprocal developmental relationship with a child is inside of them. And I think all of our examples so far are great ways of not just believing that, but deploying technology to meet people where they are and make that realization more possible. Um, Temis, you got us started, and I want to circle back to Mel and Sam as well. I'd love for, just before we close out this panel, for each of you to share a little bit about the specific ways that in your work you build into your design process and your iteration process the meeting of families where they are and creating the experiences that are most valuable for them. And then, like Temis mentioned, what are some ways that this community can be helpful in things that you're navigating right now? What are the kinds of help and support that we can activate the CGLR network to make sure that they're accelerating your progress and impact as well? Mel, why don't you kick us off?
All right. So I think on the design side, a lot of what we try and do is understand, we're taking pretty complex government programs and trying to make that into language people can really engage with. So everything is a sixth grade reading level, for example. It's in your native language. You can, experience that in a way that makes sense to you. We have live support chat where someone can, because of AI now, it's amazing. They can message us in any language they want, and we can engage with anyone who needs to talk with us. So I think even just again, the humanization of engaging with the safety net is a big part of why people resist. The Also just designing for your phone. So many, 96% of America has a smartphone, but not everyone has a computer. So can we make this something accessible? If you don't want to deal with that, you can text us. You can just have those nudges, that SMS engagement as well. So that's been a big part of it. And I think again, it's just removing burden. So that emphasis on time, getting time back to the family, making this as easy as possible, something that you don't have, that you can do in one sitting, has been at the forefront of how we build. In terms of asks, I think on our side, so just some exciting news, starting in August, anyone in New York City will be able to use Mirza to look for childcare. So if you're in the New York area, spreading the news on that is always a huge ask for us, and just getting the word out that this is going to be publicly available. We also work in Montgomery County, Ohio, and that we actually do now prenatal to 5. So not just childcare, but WIC, Medicaid enrollment, other programs like that. And so that's something that's also expanding in Ohio. So if you're in those two areas, would love to be able to have you use the product and see that. But I think moving forward, as programs might become more constrained or as administrative efficiency becomes more important, we're so willing to talk with counties, with folks, nonprofit organizations who are doing the work to blade and blend services to make access more easy for families. So we'll always ask for conversations from folks on that side.
Awesome. Thanks, Mel. Heard loud and clear. So everybody, both spread the word, but if you can think of somebody that an institution, a government partner that might want to partner to deploy something as incredible as Mirza, please reach out to Mel. All right, Sam, bring us home. Tell us a little bit more about both the sort of co-creation and process of proximity in your work at Happypillar, and how can our audience help you all today?
So I loved both you, Gabe, and Temis saying that we're meeting families where they are because we are doing the same. So from the beginning, we've been building alongside parents who feel left behind in traditional systems, and we've heard over and over that families want help. They believe in mental health, but they're drowning. Even I was drowning. We don't have time to drive an hour across town, wait in the lobby, explain our lives to someone new every month. We need care that shows up when we need it, not just when the system, says it's available. So we built Happypillar to be flexible for these kinds of families, for all families. So on demand, low burden, low cost. And we designed it so parents don't have to be perfect to make progress. It's 5 minutes a day, no clinical jargon, no shame. We just want therapeutic tools that meet families where they are, like you said. As far as helping us, I really appreciate that we get to ask this question. We are looking for partners always, organizations, clinicians, systems who want to work with us to deliver this care to families who need it most. It's affordable, if not completely free in some cases. So if that's you and you have an organization that you think would like to work with Happypillar and offer Happypillar to their families, let's talk. Otherwise, if you know anyone between the ages of 2 and 7, Happypillar is available on iPhones and Android, and you can find it at happypillar.com.
Awesome. Sam, Mel, Temis, I am so grateful that we have had the opportunity to chat today and just unpack a little bit more about the incredible work that you, your teams, your organizations are doing in the communities that you're in. And I do encourage everyone to follow up if you've learned something or think you can make a connection to help these organizations continue to push towards the accomplishment of their mission. And with that, that concludes our first panel. And we're cooking. I mean, we're just getting started. We've got a second panel, which we're going to dive right into. And to get us kicked off for this second panel, I'm going to offer a little bit of framing because this is around strengthening the ecosystem of connection. And we know that children learn best when the adults in their lives are connected, when families, educators, and caregivers are all working from a place of trust and shared purpose. Our second panel is going to explore how technology can help build and sustain that ecosystem of connection. These platforms aren't just tools for messaging or monitoring, they're building bridges that help families feel seen, schools feel accessible, and communities feel aligned. Especially in an under-resourced context, this kind of trust building is not a nice to have. It is the foundation. It is essential. So with that, I'm excited to introduce our 4 panelists for our second panel here. We have Alejandro from Springboard Collaborative and Paloma Learning, Hijay from Talking Points, Rex from Nookly, and Omo from Math Talk. How's everybody? I think, yes, we got the videos on. Beautiful pictures and beautiful live video. We're going to dive right in, but now that we've done this once, I'm just going to give a prompt to the audience. Don't wait for each of them to say what they need. Listen, think about connections you can make along the way and jot those down to yourselves. And let's circle back to those at the end as well. So I'm going to kick things off with the same question that I asked the first panel. Each of you, if you could share a little bit about the work that you do and sort of your motivation and inspiration to do it. And Alejandro, I'm going to have you kick us off. Can you tell us a little bit about Paloma and Springboard?
I sure can if I can find the unmute button. I will also share my screen just so that in case you are a visual learner like I am. Bum, ba, bum, bum, bum. Okay, hopefully you can see a screen.
It's good.
Awesome. I'm Alejandro. My life's purpose is helping marginalized families put their kids on the path to success. Growing up poor, my parents are the reason that my sister and I overcame the odds. That's them on the left, and that is baby me on my mom's lap. If it weren't for my parents, my sister and I might have accepted the limitations others tried to impose on us. Our parents were the only adults in our lives who believed in us, who saw our fullest potential and helped us realize it. My sister went to Columbia, I went to Harvard. We both committed our lives to helping other parents do for their kids what our parents did for us. Unfortunately, though, the school system never saw the value my parents brought to the table. Years later, I become a teacher. Those are my kids on the right. And there again, I felt the disconnect. I felt frustrated that my school and our system still hadn't figured out how to help parents and teachers work as a team to support learning. I think parents' love for their children is the single greatest and the most underutilized natural resource in education. 14 years ago, I founded Springboard Collaborative, which runs out-of-school time programs that train parents to teach their kids to read. And 2 years ago, I co-founded Paloma, a mobile app that helps parents build a habit of providing 15 minutes of curriculum-aligned instruction daily at home. Here is how it works. So every day, Paloma texts families their 15-minute tutoring session. There's no password, no login, no download to maximize access, and families get guidance in their home language. Every session has 3 building blocks. I do, we do, you do. First, parents watch a 45-second video introducing the bite-sized skill they'll practice with their child. And these tutoring sessions are mapped to the district core curricula. Then, parents practice the skill with their child. Every day ends with a child applying what they learned by reading a decodable book or doing a math story problem with their parents' coaching and support. When families finish on Monday, Paloma asks what they want the week's personalized story to be about. Families can choose a fan favorite like dinosaurs or unicorns, or let their imagination run free. We want a story about making arepas with our cousins. On Wednesdays, families receive the special stories they wished for. If you told us your daughter Matilde wants to be a princess in a castle this week, your wishes are command. The book is personalized to children's learning needs and interests. We also illustrate kids as protagonists in their own stories in a way that honors their identities. Students literally see themselves in their decodables. Families typically focus on literacy the first half of the week, then they tutor their kids in math. We'll dig into the outcomes later, but hopefully that gives you a quick overview.
Yeah, thank you, Alejandro. That is incredible. There is so much of that, which I think if you look at what you shared with us in just a few seconds, for those who've been in the field for a long time, you can see sort of like the reconstruction and the undoing of a lot of like well-intentioned, but not necessarily well achieving in outcomes of supports for children and families because they're inaccessible. They don't, reflect the kids and families themselves, and they're not meeting them precisely where they are in their learning journey. So excited to dive in more with you about that. But before we do, I'm going to toss it over to Hije to tell us a little bit about talking points.
Thanks, Gabe. Hi, everyone. I'm Hije, founder and CEO of Talking Points. And my story starts in Korea. So I was born in Korea, and when I was 8, my family immigrated to England, to kind of a Korean immigrant-heavy suburb of London. It's grown significantly since then. And I went to a local elementary school, which was literally called, I kid you not, Robin Hood Primary School. It couldn't get any more English than that. And I saw my mom kind of blossoming into a parent leader, a parent spokesperson, parent translator, kind of the back and forth between the school and the immigrant community that we lived in. If you meet her in person, my mom is a very shy lady. So she did this super reluctantly because she could speak the language, she was able to navigate the system. And I kind of really saw the influence of my mom's involvement in my education and my sister's education on Monday to Friday. And then on Saturdays, I would go to Korean school. And I would call it, I'm a social scientist by background, and I would call it a natural A/B experiment. The same kids, same friends I had, same parents, different school system, and different language. And it really kind of just made me reflect on the power of family engagement. And if you look at research, it shows that family engagement is twice as more predictive of a student's success than that family socioeconomic status. But it's actually there's a lot of barriers to making effective family school partnerships happen, even though the research shows that it's a very effective tool. So at Talking Points, we're dedicated to unlocking the potential of families and being more engaged in their children's education for student outcomes. And we break the barriers to the partnership in driving the best practice that scale, the most kind of effective practices that are used. So we are focused on technology to foster meaningful relationships between families and schools. And we do this by building an outcomes-focused family engagement platform that uses technology and AI to drive student outcomes at scale. So we combine embedded best practices, two-way, accessible, translated communication that is industry-leading translation technology, as well as data-informed guidance to positively impact student outcomes and build educator and family capacity. And I'll use the slides in a little bit in your next question, but we're currently serving about 9 million families, educators, and students across the nation, and recently reached our 1 billionth conversation between families and school community. So was really excited to celebrate that.
I love that. EJ, thank you. There's, one thing on the point you closed on that I'd like to reflect for a second is, I often like to say in the world of early childhood, everything happens locally. A child is in a place, and that place is often a home or a school or a childcare center or a doctor's office. So it always has to feel close to home. And yet, I think our aspiration, we can't let go of universal aspirations for the well-being of all children. And this is one of the ways that I think technology can be so supportive, is that it's not technology for the sake of scaling, it's technology for the sake of universal reach, access, and quality. And so I'm really, I admire the work that you have already done in your team at Talking Points. And it's such a great example of how we can use technology to make sure that equity and equality gaps don't exist, or exist in a less pronounced way if we can utilize tools, technological tools, to make them smaller. Next, I'm going to hand it over to you, Rex. And Rex, I'd love you to tell us a little bit about your story and this is a double entendre, your story at Nookley.
There you go. There you go. Well, it's great to be here and inspiring to hear about all the amazing work that is going on here with my name is Rex. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Nookley, and we are an AI co-pilot for caregivers, therapists, teachers to help them quickly build engaging learning materials for kids, and do so in a way where kids can see themselves as the main characters of those materials. So we are all about visual aids. So I will pull up my screen here. So the way that it works is that a caregiver or a professional comes into Nookley, shares a challenge that they're going through, and they can get feedback and support from our evidence-supported chat assistant. But then we don't stop there. It's also bringing the advice and best practices to life through the visuals that can be created in just a few minutes. And so visuals like stories, as Gabe hinted at, or speech support materials, or songs with videos with the child's representation in the materials, and then all highly flexible and editable so that they're aligned with the specific learning needs of the child. And so Nookley was catalyzed by an observation I had of my wife one evening, who is a behavior therapist who works with kids. And she was really struggling with creating the visual aids that she needed to engage the child she was supporting. It was a black boy, and she couldn't find any characters that looked like this kid. And I'm very fortunate. She is incredibly empathetic and passionate about building personalized experiences for the kids under her care, as so many parents and professionals are. And our mission is to make that a less burdensome process for her so that kids can be more engaged at the same time. And so, yeah, that's Nookley in a nutshell.
Thanks, Rex. That's fantastic. I think one of the things, this gets back to one of the conversations we had in the previous panel too, is you think about your wife or another, clinician or therapist toiling to put together the right personalized learning plan or support materials. And that care and passion, I think, is pretty universal across providers of all types in the early childhood field. But the number of hours spent doing that it's a supply constraint. It means that fewer children have access to, clinicians and tutors and teachers. And so I think like this is another great example of where we can both get higher quality, more personalized, more culturally aligned supports to children and families and do it in a lower period of time. So very cool and excited to dive in more with you. I also think that is a good transition to our last panelist, a good friend of mine, Omo Moses from Math Talk. Omo, I know that this is a songbook that you are very familiar and experienced in singing from. Can you tell us a little bit about how you take a similar approach with getting kids and families to love math?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Gabe. So, math has been the family business. And so my mom and dad met in Mississippi during the 1960s. They were part of SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and they worked to ensure that every person in this country would have the right to vote. And so my dad extended that work, and he understood that education was really critical to enable children to participate fully in democratic society, and that math education in particular was important to both economic access and to political participation. And so all of that is really the foundation and the context from which Math Talk grows. I have two kids, Kamar and Johari, and when I became a dad, I was really invested in the relationship that I could have with them around learning in general and learning math in particular. And so I wanted math to be something that we enjoyed doing together. I wanted math to be something that they saw in the world around them, and I wanted them to see themselves as math people. And so it was really exciting for me to see how my desires became internalized, and they became the ones that were facilitating math experiences and math activities as we were out and about and doing the things that we enjoyed doing. And so Math Talk is really growing out of all that. We know that math is everywhere, and we want to make sure that it can be fun, meaningful, and valuable for kids and families everywhere. And so on the next slide, we've really thought about ways in which technology can be utilized to help people develop awareness of math in their community, to strengthen behaviors around doing math, to strengthen connections between math in formal spaces and math in the real world. And so I think they're going to move it to the next slide. Cool. And so we've piloted, and we're, launching an app called the Math Everywhere app. The way I think of it, it's really like the Pokemon Go of math learning. And Gabe, initially you talked about this ecosystem, and part of what we've seen is that math can really be a point of connection between schools, between businesses, between the park districts, between early learning centers, between hospitals, between children's museums, between zoos, like all those spaces that kids and families are. And so I think they're going to play a quick video of my daughter demonstrating some of that.
Let's do it.
Hi, my name is Kamara, and I'm 10 years old. Math is important to me because it is something you have to use in your everyday life. At Math Talk, we are on a mission to make math fun, meaningful, and valuable for kids and families everywhere. Through Math Talk games and activities, I've learned several new strategies to solve a math problem. I've become more confident in my math skills and had fun while learning. Math really is everywhere. My dad says that math can help you understand the world, My aunt says that math makes your brain work hard. And my grandma says that if you don't learn a lot of math, you could feel like you missed something important in life. So don't miss out. Come and learn with the coolest math app on the planet. Math Everywhere is like the Pokemon Go of math learning. Here's how it works. First, get outside. Use the app to collect and unlock activities in our math universe. Next, do math in the real world. Using AR, you can play games in your neighborhood or at home. Then, my favorite part, earn math bucks and exchange them for things like haircuts, food, or bracelets from local businesses. Math bucks are a virtual currency that we created just for kids. Last year, 180 students used our app to explore their communities with their families. Here's what they're saying about it. Now, we're ready to go national. Join us in bringing the Math Everywhere app to kids and communities across America.
I don't know if we can top that, Omo. There's two things that jump out immediately are one, I know my two daughters are slightly younger than yours, but life goal or life hack achieved if you get them to repeat something back that you've told them. There's a wisdom you've been trying to impart, and not just from you, but other family members too. So a major shout out for that. But this also ties back to our first panel in the idea that like parents and the environments that we're in have what we need to create such rich environments for children. And it's just the ability and the support to see that where you are. And I love how Math Talk and the Math Everywhere app like can transform the everyday spaces that folks navigate into those learning environments. And I know when we met 4 or 5 years ago and you were showing me early prototypes of counting the number of through the augmented reality, the number of tigers that, a certain lamppost is or something like that. I mean, that's stuck with me in so many places when I'm, at the grocery store with my daughters or trying to get from, point A to point B. Where it's like, this is an opportunity to just observe the environment around us. And I love how you've built it into an entire adventure because that's what kids are wired for at these ages is to be on an adventure, not just to be going through the daily tasks that we're checking off in our lists. So, I absolutely love that. Omo, I'm gonna work in reverse order here and give you our first follow-up question, which is, you talked about in the video show too how Math Talk blends culture and community and play with learning. And I'd love to see from, your whole career and the work that you're doing now, what happens when families encounter math out in the world and in ways that reflect their identity, their reality, and their experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the other panelists talked about, parents need to be seen, heard, and celebrated. And, math needs to be seen, heard, and celebrated. And so we're trying to facilitate that happening, in the community. And so, the app has really been a powerful tool to help parents begin to see, the math that's there, but also to see the kids' excitement and interest in engaging with math in their community. I think the other thing is that most people associate math with isolation or a pen and paper and working hard on your own. But we're trying to make math a social experience, and so you can go to a mural or any public art and meet other people and have a experience that involves math. And so I think it's thinking about math is just part of our everyday lives, and so helping people have an on-ramp to that in a way in which they're comfortable and in a way that's meaningful to them and interesting to them. And so we're excited about the opportunity to do that and just really transform the relationship that we as people, as a community, as a society can have with mathematics.
Yeah, I love that. Omo, and can you, just as we're working through this too, because I know it was a little bit called out in the video by your daughter, but tell us a little bit and tell the audience a little bit about ways that not only we can engage, but we can be helpful to you as you're continuing to try to spread the goodness of Math Talk across the country.
Absolutely. So we're piloting the app again this summer. We're expanding the pilot in the greater Boston area and in Georgia. And then we're lining up, school partners for 2026 that are interested in exploring this for their communities. And so, yeah, we're excited to share more of the results that come out of the work this summer. And anyone that wants to talk about potential partnership in 2026, we'd love to be able to do that.
Awesome. Well, I know Ralph from Grade Level Reading likes to talk about the incredible work across hundreds of grade level reading communities. And hopefully there's a number of folks online today who are potential partners as you continue to make your work accessible on a national level.
Thank you.
Rex, I'm going to circle back to you. Getting back to Nookly, it's built on this powerful idea of trust, that the adults in a child's life are central to their learning and emotional world. Can you tell us how there's so much noise out there right now around AI? And I'd love to hear you, as somebody who's deploying it for the benefit of children and their development and support from parents, how you use AI to support that work, not to replace human touch, but to amplify it.
Yeah, it's such an important question. As a quick aside, Omo, incredible video. That was amazing. But Gabe, to your question, I think it starts with how we're thinking about AI. And so a question I often ask folks is, what's the one word that comes to mind when you think about AI? And you get a lot of responses that can broadly be translated to like terrifying or incredible, right? Just only the positives. And so the way that we think about it is AI is a superpower. And superpowers can be used for good purposes. They can also be used, the bad guys have superpowers too, right? So just being very clear-eyed about that from the get-go, I think is important. And it's informed how we've built Nookly, because we want AI to be that superpower for the parents, for the professionals who we trust have the child's best interests in heart, right? And so when someone is using Nookly, the AI is there to assist at every step along the creation journey, from brainstorming how to approach solving a challenge that you're facing with your child, to actually creating the materials and the activities that you can then use to engage that child in productive learning. But there's a human in the loop at every point along that journey. And so we view ourselves more as a unlock for those who we know care about kids, rather than just a separate AI black box. We don't think that's the best way to build out.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Rex. And I think your point about AI as a tool, and you can sort of look back in history with every technological evolution preceding AI. Back to being able to create light with fire, which extends the opportunity to like learn and read into the evening time, which is a great thing. But fire can also burn. And so I think one of the things I would add on this, that is only building on your points, is it matters whose hands the design and implementation is in. And I think it's important, as tools are being created, that it is in somebody's, like, it's being designed by somebody who's proximate to the challenge that's being faced, and that they have a co-creative mindset that I think we've seen displayed not just by you, but all of the members of today's panel, to really work it with a level of commitment and ethical responsibility to make sure that it is not just doing, not doing net harm, but not doing harm at all. Like that we're taking into account just the ways that it can be either misused or misdeployed. And my other thing that I would add here is that I think I'd like to advocate that, to our audience, that it's leaders and innovators like those that you are meeting today that I think we have that give us the best chance to see these tools deployed for good. And so again, supporting their work, providing them feedback, making connections to them and partnering with them is a great way to make sure that this tool is something that is deployed for the benefit of children and families and is not something that drives greater inequity or greater harm in a world where we see all too much of that coming from technology and other tools that are around us. I want to come back to you, Hijay. In the spirit of building trust and shared purpose, you've done this with so many families and so many people through Talking Points in your use of technology to connect adults with each other or with each student's life to create this coordinated system of support that drives outcomes. Can you tell us a little bit about just like how you've done that and what you've learned along the way?
Yeah, absolutely, Gabe. And I'm going to ask the CGLR team to pull up the slide if that works. And I think I heard earlier that the are the slides up? I can't see.
Not yet, but I
Oh,
think you
not
can
yet.
work on getting
Okay,
them there.
great. Awesome. I heard earlier around like really meeting the families where they are at in the first panel. So that's kind of the first step that we think about. We think about reaching every family in the most universal way possible. So this means as the school districts and educators are reaching families through text messages, that there's no download needed if that's the option. We also provide voice to text, text to voice for families who may not have high literacy levels in their own languages. So reaching, kind of helping educators reach families is the first step using technology. And then the second step is communication, but also making sure if we can go forward, making sure that the information going back and forth is communicated, but also understandable. Could you click forward? So communicating, making sure that every family and educators can communicate and understand the communication and the information that's sent. And then the third step is really thinking about how does that communication build trusting relationships between families and school districts, and kind of helping families become that partners in education through best practices. So examples of the third step include we have a feature called Message Mentor that essentially transforms a teacher or an educator or district admin's message into culturally affirming, asset-based, positive tone, whatever that message is, and that really kind of helps build the bridge between families and educators, and kind of build that goodwill or quick kudos that facilitates educators kind of add a quick kudos to a family whose students might be excelling in the classroom. And then lastly, we think about, how do we purposely guide those families and teacher relationships to activities that research shows make the biggest difference in student outcomes. So for example, we just released an attendance suite where educators can really find out the real reasons of why families are not necessarily sending kids to schools. And these days it could be anything from immigration to bus schedule. So really helping school districts unearth the real reasons for absences and helping kind of design interventions around that, and giving them actionable data to kind of design the resource allocation around. So if we can go forward in the slide. So, these partnerships we think are a powerful lever for improving student outcomes and kind of making the hard work that districts are already doing more successful in driving outcomes. And the study is a little outdated, but we have rigorous research and causal studies to show that Talking Points platform adoption moves absenteeism. You're seeing 15% there. Well, most recently we're seeing about 24% reduction in absenteeism, and also increasing kind of course proficiency and test scores as well. So we wanna kind of emphasize that family engagement at Talking Points, we think, is a means to an end. Scalable family engagement really is kind of a strategy to improve student outcomes, and we're helping school districts do that.
I love that. I think, KJ, one of the things that I love is, again, sort of the laser focus on, what making evident what feels intuitive, that if we strengthen these ecosystems, that children and families will be better off, and then sort of the commitment and the accountability to tracking and measuring and improving upon those outcomes over time only reinforces, I think, the practice and the adoption, which is so cool. Hijay, before we circle back to Alejandro, is there something specific that the audience can do to be helpful to you and the Talking Points team at this point in time?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are constantly looking to work with more school districts in the country, school districts. So if you are a parent, please tell your school district about Talking Points. If you're based on a school or school district, consider bringing Talking Points to your district. And we are also a nonprofit that relies on philanthropic funding to really drive our R&D in a way that is most impact focused. So if you're a funder in the room who's interested in talking to us, please reach out as well.
That's great. I am going to use that as a segue. Just before I get to you, Alejandro, I want to lift up Hijay's point for all of the audience members. I think one of the things that we know in our hearts and from our experience across the early childhood field is unfortunately the level of under or disinvestment relative to other areas. And so if you're a funder in the room, every organization that I have encountered at Promise would benefit from more intentional, more unrestricted, longer term funding to support their mission. If you're not a funder in the room, maybe you know somebody who is. And if you're inspired by one of these innovators today, make an introduction. Who knows where it will lead? It will hopefully lead to something, as you've probably heard today, that will lead to helping better the lives of children and families and the educators around them. So that is an unsolicited plug, but one I'm going to make. And Alejandro, I'm excited to come back to you for sort of our final follow-up question from me before we open it up to the audience, because I think it really builds beautifully on what Hijay just shared as well. Paloma uses technology to enlist parents as teaching partners. And historically, I think somebody who might come in with a critical lens of the deployment of education technology or ed tech can point to lots of places where, it doesn't have a great track record of moving the needle on learning outcomes. But Paloma is intentional about this challenge and is doing something about it. I'd love to hear you share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's a great question. And the ed tech sector has historically had a lot of broken promises. So I would agree with the skepticism. Like the dirty secret in ed tech is that 2/3 of all the licenses that get sold never get used, not a once. And Lawrence Holt wrote a compelling article called "The 5% Problem," that only 5% of licenses that are sold are used at a dosage that drives impact, and districts don't have dollars to waste in that regard. So the way that we think about that is two ways. One is that we obsess about habit formation, like helping a parent turn their intention to support their child's learning into a practice, and then turn that practice into a habit, and then turn that habit into an identity. Like we're a family that sets and achieves goals together. And the other piece is coherence, like ensuring that what the teacher is teaching in the classroom, what, when, and how, and what the family is reinforcing at home are marching in lockstep day by day, week over week, to ensure that the student is getting a coherent learning experience across the continuum of their whole day, right? From when they wake up to when they go to bed. The combination of those things drives the outcomes that we see. So we partner with Title I districts like HISD, LAUSD, Metro Nashville, and states like Kentucky and Oklahoma. And across our partners last year, 76% of all K-2 families, of everyone on the roster, successfully tutored their kids using Paloma. And 70% of families tutored their kids at least 3 times per week, consistently over the course of the whole school year. And the mode was 5. Families were more likely to tutor their kid all 5 weekdays than any other frequency of engagement. That unlocks a lot of instructional time, this world of instructional time that can otherwise lay dormant within school communities. On average, teachers saw families in their classroom do 14 hours of one-on-one instruction any given week. You can do that by yourself as a teacher if you stay 3 hours a day after school, Monday through Friday, and tutor kids yourself. Obviously, it's much more sustainable to unlock that time in partnership with families. And then finally, more learning time drives better learning outcomes. One study showed that families using Paloma, their kids made 41% more reading growth and 39% more growth in math relative to a matched control group over the course of a school year. And multilingual learners nearly doubled their reading growth. Another study looked at enrollment and found that schools using Paloma, they cut their enrollment declines by 52% relative to a propensity matched control group, all of which is to say that parents are critical determinants of all the outcomes that we care about, right? Whether it's reading proficiency or attendance, to EJ's point, or enrollment.
Yeah, that's great. I love how you, I think, and this was both in your answer and to your point, EJ, in sort of the visual that you shared with us. It's really about understanding and, in your case, deploying not just the technology, but the design of the programming and the sort of curriculum behind the technology to meet parents where they are first and foremost. We've heard that powerfully from everyone, and then bring in user-friendly steps them along this journey of engagement and benefit. I think value to them. It's not just something that is, being told to them as good, but they're experiencing it as good. They're experiencing it as enriching to the parent, the parent and family environment that they want to be a part of, and the broader community they want to be a part of. It all comes back to, I think, that early conversation that we had with Mel about time. Like, are you valuing and using a parent's time and attention well? Because I think the thing we've heard and I think we believe is that universally, all parents want what's best for their kids, and all educators and support folks are in the village that are around a child want what's best for them. But if I think one of the things that we see over and over is if you have to turn left 3 times to go right, there's too many other things competing for that time and attention. And so I really value the way that y'all have been intentional about breaking down every step of the way and making it one where somebody is excited to engage more deeply and they see the benefit to their child, to their family, and to the learning unit or an environment around their kids. I know we are fastly approaching. Oh, Alejandro, and actually, I think Rex, I'm guilty of not asking you this too. So I want both of you to give a quick plug for any other ways that this community can help you if folks are listening today. And then we'll have time maybe for one community question before we run out. So Alejandro, let me pass it back to you.
Yeah, briefly, partnerships. We're eager to partner with districts and states that are looking to improve their K-2 literacy rates, engage families, save teachers time, save budgetary resources. Those are the folks where we can add the most value. And so I would love to connect with y'all.
Yeah, to pick up on that point, that's a similar ask from our side too. So we started launching pilot programs with schools and clinics earlier this year. We've got 21 of those in place so far, but are welcoming more folks. And the way that we think about our partnerships is very much in the spirit of a word that Gabe already used, which was co-creation. It's folks that recognize that AI is not going away and who want a say in how it gets developed. So if that's you, or if you know folks that would fall into that category, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. All right. I wish that we had more time to have a more robust discussion, but if I could ask all of the panelists to come back on video for a second. One question I want to pull out from the chat, it's from Nadia. It says there are so many apps and orgs out there that, from Khan Academy to World Reader to Math Talk. Just curious how you see parents navigating the scene in ways that is constructive and not confusing. And also, how might these learning apps supplement what teachers are using in school? I think there's been a lot of good examples on the second half of that question, but it comes back to time and attention. And I'm just curious, we've heard about partnerships with schools and ways of meeting people and parents literally, physically where they are. If you'd like to jump in and just talk about how you help parents make sense of this in a way that is helpful and not stressful for them, I'd love to hear a couple of ideas.
I can kick off the party. Briefly, like the way I think about it is the relationships, both the parent-child relationship, but also the parent-teacher relationship. People want to feel like they're on a team. That's both true of teachers who can feel isolated in the classroom, and it's certainly true of parents who are like, you get a car seat, you get a baby, and then you got to figure it all out. And so ways that you can do that, you can leverage touch points that already exist in the school year. So for example, at back to school night, families are typically introduced to Paloma, or parent teacher conferences. Parents and teachers are sitting down together and walking through how to use it on a daily basis. The teachers celebrating and honoring the practice that families are doing at home. And it all kind of ties together. So when you feel like you're a part of a teaching team and you're not alone in it, it can help for you to feel like you don't have to navigate your own way through kind of a sea of resources, if that makes sense.
Thanks, Alejandro. Anybody else want to jump in? Just come off a mute and share.
I think from my perspective, I mean, there is certainly a lot of products and apps around, and I think the key is what is the efficacy? What, if you do have the time as parents to look at the efficacy of the products, and just kind of know how to filter noise from effective products that actually drive outcomes would be just a filter to have as you're kind of discerning which products to actually engage in versus not.
Thanks, EJ. Anybody else want to jump in?
Yeah, I would build on that, those 2 points. I think that, trust and the community of adults that care the most about supporting kids. I would have a heuristic for companies and tools that place a premium on working with those professionals to inform how they support parents as well. So a lot of building on what folks have said, but I definitely think leaning into that community as a way to filter through is really important.
Awesome. I'm going to pause us there. I was hoping that we would have one more time for a closing question that I selfishly wanted to put to everybody on the panels, which is I was curious what, and I'll extend this out to our listening audience as well. I was curious what is giving folks hope these days. And though we won't have time to go panelist by panelist to get their answer, I will say that, and hopefully you feel similarly, just hearing about the work, the focus, the intentionality, and the proximity that each of the leaders and their organizations that came today to share have in what they're doing gives me immense hope. And I will be honest, it really does reflect, and I imagine if that feels this way for you too, what we experience from social innovators and the communities who are working day to day on the ground in real time with real children and real families and real educators. As you know, working with kids is inherently hopeful, and building a brighter future for them is inherently hopeful. And so I hope you close your eyes when the next time, if it's in 2 minutes or 2 days from now, you're really feeling down, like just take a mental snapshot of the group of innovators that are here today, and remind yourself that their work matters and is building a better future, and the work that you're doing matters and is building a better future. And with that, I'm going to toss it back over to the CGLR team to close us off, because if you want to talk about building a better future, Michelle, I know you and Ralph and Sarah and the whole team there have been focused on that for a while, and I'm so grateful that you brought us all together today.
Thank you so much, Gabe, and thank you so much for your thought partnership in designing the session, as well as with all of you, the panelists. So on behalf of the Campaign for Grade Level Reading, I just want to thank you all again, and Gabe again for guiding such a thoughtful and energizing conversation. I know that we didn't get to a lot of the Q&A, but I did notice that a lot of the questions were geared to specific people. So we will share those directly with those panelists and have them answer them directly. And we'll also send that out in the follow-up email that you'll be getting in the next day or so. Again, just wanted to end with my gratitude and really thinking about and showing us what's possible when technology is designed with purpose, equity, and human connection in mind. We hope you'll join us for our future EdTech Institute sessions, and that you leave today feeling inspired to build with families, not just for them. Thank you, everybody.